In a fortuitous event, Ella and Samuel's paths crossed. Ella had been spending her leisure day wandering in the park when she inadvertently misplaced her usually neglected umbrella. Samuel chased down the young woman to return her forsaken item, and an engaging discourse commenced. The maiden expressed her profound gratitude to the gentleman, charmed by his striking azure eyes in the midst of their conversation. Love blossomed within her for him, absent of any forethought about what lay ahead for their budding romance. She had made no blueprints for their relationship. It merely unfolded. In such happenstances, it's customary to utter something about destiny, but the thought didn't cross Ella's mind. She was simply elated by the attention showered upon her by this attractive male, and enjoyed the amusement he added to her leisure hours. Samuel's occupation was a lorry driver for a haulage enterprise, while Ella was employed in a telecommunications hub, better known as a call center. Career advancement was not her primary concern. However, after her educational pursuits, it had been necessary for her to secure gainful employment to evade depending on her parents. Thus, she accepted the first occupational opportunity that knocked at her door. It was a beginner's job, but as the saying goes, there's nothing more lasting than the provisional. Hence, she remained in her role. The lovers had not lived together for a year when the news of Ella's pregnancy shocked Samuel. Her period started late, which prompted her to buy a pregnancy test just as a precaution. To her great surprise, this confirmed her prenatal condition. At first, the young woman felt a surge of fear, but soon she was overwhelmed by a wave of relief. Exhausted by the constant routine at work, she embraced with open arms the prospect of going on maternity leave for several years. Moreover, she was thinking about handing over the financial reins to her partner if luck was on her side. Samuel was touched by this news and quickly came to the conclusion that it was time to tie the knot. Although he did not consider Ella to be the companion of his lifelong dreams, circumstances dictated a different path for him. Having grown up without a father himself and haunted by his mother's stories about how she abandoned him after learning about her pregnancy, he vowed not to repeat his mistakes and not to leave his partner at such a crucial moment. Opting against a grand celebration, they invited only their nearest and dearest, held an understated gathering at a local cafe, and then went their separate ways. With no home of his own, Samuel swiftly addressed their housing dilemma. His sister, who had settled overseas and hesitated to rent out her well-appointed apartment, fearful that tenants wouldn't cherish the luxury she had invested in, had been biding her time, waiting for real estate prices to improve. With no favorable market in sight, she had postponed selling indefinitely. Coincidentally, just as Samuel shared the joyful news of Ella's pregnancy and their impending nuptials, his sister had been contemplating offering them her apartment. Thus, without even needing to ask, the provision was made. They could stay in her place while they saved for a future abode of their own. She was indifferent, since the abode was unused anyway, and she spared no effort or resource for her brother and his soon-to-be-born child. The expectant couple settled into a cozy flat equipped with every convenience. Ella enrolled at the local maternity hospital, and they began their lives together as a bona fide family. However, not long after, devastating news shook their world. Ella's pregnancy was at risk. Tragically, they were unable to save the baby. Samuel was devastated beyond words. He had already envisioned the joy of a new life in their home, the laughter of a child, the tiny fingers wrapped around his own. He had preemptively fallen in love with his child, and now that dream was dashed. Post-hospital, Ella seemed altered. The spark previously seen in her gaze noticeably dimmed, and she scarcely spoke during those initial days. Her husband did everything to nurture her back to health, fetching fruits and managing all essentials for her recuperation, which Ella navigated remarkably swiftly. The memory of their child faded into silence, yet Samuel found his thoughts wandering to the loss each night before sleep took him. His perception of Ella had so deeply intertwined with her identity as the mother of his future children that he scarcely recalled their union had been necessitated by pregnancy alone. Nevertheless, over this period, He had grown profoundly attached to his wife, the slightest thought of separation unfathomable to him. Another year flew by. Samuel continued to work as a driver, which increasingly began to annoy Stella. She was losing patience, longing to quit her job and force her husband to provide for her. Stella constantly pestered Samuel with a request to transfer her to a higher-paying position, since she no longer felt supported by him. After several questionable refresher courses, she decided to quit her job in order to force her husband to earn more money. This abrupt act of Stella provoked the first serious feud in their married life. "You know perfectly well that now is not the right time for such actions," Samuel objected, raising his voice in excitement. "I'm tired of taking on the heavy lifting all by myself. Remember, I'm a woman." Stella countered with a shout. "You're supposed to be the man, hence it's your duty to make money." Her husband found it increasingly difficult to contain his irritation. For a long time, he consistently saved part of his salary to buy an apartment, while Stella's tiny salary was spent exclusively on her personal needs, from time to time allowing himself to buy groceries for the house. Now he alone bore all the responsibility, but no matter how hard he tried to justify his position, his wife remained deaf to it. The man did not plan to change jobs in the near future, and in response received an increasingly cold reception from his wife. Sometimes, when he returned from a grueling shift, he did not find that dinner was waiting for him, despite the fact that Stella had the whole day at her disposal. But during the time that she leisurely spent at home, she managed to make acquaintances with neighboring elderly people and families with children, which did not bother him much. However, the appearance of a new neighbor on the floor above certainly attracted his attention. The intriguing man named Wyatt was young, attractive, and obviously rich. The new neighbor was working at home, taking breaks from time to time to get some fresh air outside. During one of these breaks in the yard, he ran into Stella. Upon learning that a handsome man lives alone, the woman quickly decided to take care of him, ignoring the presence of her own husband. One fateful day, her husband's sister returned to their hometown. There were several issues related to the documents to be resolved, as well as to check on Samuel's mother and brother. To make a pleasant surprise, she secretly visited his workplace with the intention of going home together. Samuel's heart was filled with joy when he saw his sister. He was very proud of her achievements. Given her young age, she owned her own apartment and successfully established herself abroad. In light of this momentous event, Samuel switched shifts with his colleague and left work earlier than usual. The couple went into the store to buy a delicious cake before heading home, looking forward to meeting face-to-face with their daughter-in-law. To their surprise, the apartment was empty. Ella was absent for unexplained reasons. They settled down in the kitchen and broke the silence when the front door slammed. Ella came in, looking slightly disheveled. After leaving, her husband greeted her with the question, "Well, where have you been?" Without wasting a second, she replied, "I went to get matches, and there wasn't a single box left." As she was saying these words, her gaze fell on the matches in the kitchen cabinet. However, her attention was diverted from this task when she focused on thanking Ella. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, the daughter-in-law took the initiative and started heating the kettle. She used old matches that were already stored in the closet, stating that they had run out for some inexplicable reason. Her sister refrained from mentioning the incident to her brother, but a sense of wariness towards Ella had already taken hold of her. It seemed that she was hiding something, although the essence of it remained unknown. Her only goal was to uncover the truth. That very day, her brother privately told her about the conflict with his wife. He said that she decided to quit her job, thereby putting the burden of all expenses on him. It dawned on her that she hadn't noticed any tension between the couple. One day, diligently running her morning errands, she found herself returning home around lunchtime. Looking forward to the opportunity to sit and chat with Ella to get her point of view, she was once again disappointed by her absence. However, a noise echoed down the corridor, sparking her curiosity. She peeked through the peephole and was amazed at what she saw. Ella, elated, descended the floor above, accompanied by her neighbor Wyatt. With a mischievous smile, he playfully pushed her forward, patting her thigh affectionately. The sight shocked her. The behavior of these two people unmistakably indicated that their meeting in the stairwell was not accidental or just a friendly exchange. Obviously, there was some deep connection between them. Ella entered the apartment and came face to face with Stella. The astonishment on her face was indescribable. "So you went back to Samuel, Alexei?" "Ha," Stella whispered. "And where have you been?" "Well, I took out the trash and went outside to throw it away," she replied, looking coldly at Stella and pausing for a moment. "I saw you with Wyatt," her husband's sister suddenly declared. Ella was taken aback, her eyes darting around and her mouth opening and closing sporadically. She tried to find a suitable response to this outburst. What Wyatt? You must be mistaken. You've been tangled up in all this bureaucracy. Look, I'm doing my part. You can just sit back and relax." And with that, she swiftly retreated into the kitchen. Stella decided to tell her brother about the current situation and what she witnessed. She explained that she wanted only the best for Samuel and doubted that Ella was the right choice. At first, Samuel denied her claims, refusing to believe, or rather unwilling to believe, what he had heard. But Stella had never deceived him, and it was not in her nature to scold anyone. Her brother asked to be left alone for a while to think about the situation. The next day, Stella said goodbye, and Samuel and Ella walked her out. Samuel looked gloomy at parting. Stella also advised him not to lose his vigilance and figure everything out for himself. He nodded silently in response. Samuel had come to the conclusion that simply worrying about his sister's suspicions would not lead to any solution, and it was important to find out the truth once and for all. One day, on a sudden impulse, he decided to leave work early. When he returned home, his wife was nowhere to be seen. Suspecting something was wrong, he went straight to his neighbor's apartment, posing as a courier. Wyatt opened the door, and immediately after him appeared Ella, dressed in Wyatt's shirt and looking completely at home. Just a week later, his sister, as if she had a sixth sense in case of trouble, called Samuel to check on him. He told about the quarrel with the neighbor, how he threw all of Ella's things out of the apartment, and how she made a real scene until the neighbors intervened. After failing to shack up with the wealthier neighbor, Ella tried another trick up her sleeve, claiming she was pregnant yet again. But by this point, Samuel had wised up, knowing she was likely bluffing. Sure enough, as time revealed, she was indeed pulling a fast one. Samuel couldn't have been more grateful to his sister for opening his eyes to the harsh truth of his wife's treachery. With the relationship in the rearview mirror, he threw himself into work with renewed dedication. Before long, he landed a better job through some connections. His luck started turning. He slowly but steadily saved up for a new apartment. Meanwhile, Ella must have heard through the grapevine that her ex-husband was getting his life together. She attempted to rekindle their relationship, but that chapter was firmly closed for Samuel. Analyzing the characters' actions, one can see that each held a piece of the puzzle of responsibility. Samuel exhibited resolve, seeking out the truth rather than living in denial. Ella, regrettably, chose dishonesty and manipulation, which ultimately fractured their bond. Samuel's sister played the role of the beacon of support, helping him unveil the reality of his wife's infidelity.